Today's coverage of the NLRL Sunday League Season 3 is brought to you by Malwa Transport, oversized cargo and trucking logistics specialists of Quebec. Visit their website on www.malwa-transport.ca. That's www.malois-transport.ca. Welcome to the Kingdom of the Netherlands, ladies and gents, for the third round of the NLRL Sunday League Season 3, live here on TRTN. As always, I'm Regan Clark, and you join us today from the mighty Circuit Zandvoort, situated on the coast near the town of Zandvoort and not too far away from the town of Amsterdam. The Circuit Zandvoort began its life in 1939 as a street circuit and later in 1948, as it would open as the dedicated racecourse we know it as today. Zandvoort is the exclusive home of the Dutch Grand Prix, having ran races since 1950 in the inception year of Formula 1, but in its off time hosts rounds for GT World Challenge Europe, DTM and ADAC GT Masters. The layout seen in-game is the earlier 1999 to 2019 build before it would see significant renovations at the turn of the 2020s to transform the circuit into the one we recognise today. What this means today in terms of the race is slightly less pronounced banking in those corners, and a tad rougher track surface. Rest assured, though, it's no challenge too great for our grid today. Heading into round 3, we see significant changes to the calendar due to last week's technical outage, where the brand new calendar available now shows that round 3 is now Zandvoort, replacing Silverstone for what was scheduled to be the third round of the championship. We move on to the standard medium length configuration, with Spa being pushed up to round 4, and so on and so forth, all the way to round 9, wherein which Indianapolis no longer becomes the final round and is usurped by Silverstone. Now, it was pushed from round 3, 7 weeks away, now down to round 10. This was done based around that massive technical outage we had on Assetto Corsa Competizione over the course of the last week with the brand new 2024 update that they added to the game for console users. Moving into the discussion of the Drivers' Championship as we head into round 3 today, we watch on board at the moment with Hayden Prodger, who's got a thing or two to show inside that championship standings. And starting things off, it's Melvin Milliston leading the charge from Christian Lebay there. 67 points to Lebay's 56, a joint third between Mason and Sylph, with 40 points apiece. That's actually 3 ways when you look at the introduction of Alexander Rojnov, who joins the fray also with 40 points. Cas van Veltzen in 6th with 35 points. In joint 7th position, Byron Forrest with 30 points. He finds himself entangled for position at the moment with Axel Cassier, his teammate at the Malwa Racing team. Tyler Vermack in 9th, Kevin Quain in 10th. Prodger's still on his way to it. We have seen quite a bit of success over the course of the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship for this one, and he's still yet to make his way into the championship's top 10. Could today be the day then? Well, we can only hope to find out. On to the Teams Championship then, as we bring up the charts for that. With the Teams Championship coming in around 3, it's Malwa Racing leading the charge once more with 113 points. MSA Racing with 67 points. K1 Esports up to 3rd with 44 points. U Amateurs Racing with 40. The Bulgarian Racing Team with 17 points makes 5th position ahead of Brabbles and Team Backmarkers 6th and 7th. Brand new teams then for round 3 of the championship. Holkianos Motorsport, PPR Team Latin America, TSR Competición, 7th Gear Racing, Dolphin Motorsport, PRS Racing, SPH Racing, and ART Grand Prix. Having a look then at today's race ahead, with the regulations moving away from endurance that we saw in Alton Park at round 2, back to the standard format, 10-minute free practice, 20-minute qualifying, and 1 hour for the race today. 1 mandatory pit stop, with fuel being the mandate, and a minimum 25-second pit stop. That was according to race control. Don't know exactly what has been going on in the lead up to today's. Today's event. It's been quite hectic on all fronts. And we do have quite the plethora, and this was something that really did shock me when it crossed my desk for the first time. Just the myriad of new drivers. Keep a close eye on this extensively long list of new numbers and new names to go with them, as you will definitely see quite a handful of them in today's session. I know we already have seen a few of the drivers heading into the pre-race practice session. We just got word as well from race control. The 25-second mandate is a bit buggy at the moment. It may not 100% work, but the bottom line is fuel is still mandatory to complete that mandatory pit stop. Still looking in that range at minimum about 11 to 13 seconds, all the way up to 25 seconds in that window. Still going to bring a little bit of strategy into today's hour-long race. Having a look at those new drivers though, Andrea Moriso in the Audi R8 number 17, Ivan Sanchez, Sergio Belda and JM Quito, all with the Holkianos team. There in the number 91, the number 50, and the number 26 Ferraris, a trio of 296s there to make brand new drivers in this championship. Matthias Garcia in the number 95 BMW M4, Clever Macedo. We've seen him before in GT4 in the solo multi-class endurance. Now he makes his GT3 debut in the 720S number 320. Mozatron Artek in the Porsche 992, number 43. We also have a first here, a Lamborghini, believe it or not. Jake Stratton in the number 3 Evo 2 Lamborghini Huracan makes his debut in this round alongside Ben Hayho in the number 15 Ferrari 296. Number 28, Jean Carlos in the McLaren 720S, and Liam Cross, who we saw yesterday before the stream was taken off air due to a technical outage, in the number 82 Ford Performance Mustang. Pascal Steiner, we also saw him yesterday. Now he makes his Sunday League debut in the very same number 710 Ferrari 296. Matthias Gonalons in the number 333 Ferrari 296 is alongside Rene Barkowski in the number 235 BMW M4. Sebastian Berger in the number 585 Honda NSX is also a very rare sight indeed for Honda. I believe the second or third driver to have tried it after Hayden Puttock being the last one to do so. Number 363 then of Lucas Tartarin in the Ferrari 296, and Thibaut in the number 233 BMW M4. So a fantastic new ensemble of drivers, and getting into today's event as we come towards the last 3 or so minutes of free practice today, we can see already one of those new drivers we were speaking about just a moment ago. This is Lucas Tartarin in the number 363. He crosses the line 9th fastest there. Dave Bond's not too far away from him as he crosses the line as well. See, I believe that could have been, no, as a matter of fact, we had that confused, as the little flecks of yellow would have me believe not Dave Bond, but he is there, but interceding the pair of them is the number 82 of Liam Cross. See here. This is Quito, one of the 3 drivers to make up a new team there, HMS Holkianos Motorsport, and they'll be contributing towards the team's championship, looking to go up against the likes of Malwar, K1 and MSA, our leading trio, as it were. We can see already making his way down to line goes JM Quito, the number 26, 5th fastest toward the end of free practice. Bear in mind, 20 minutes against the clock today for the qualifying session at hand, back into standard configuration. So we were hotly awaiting the arrival of our first double sprint. That would have been at Silverstone, which we were told by race control was going to be absolutely soaked wet through weather. You can see it is quite a stark contrast heading in to Zandvoort today. Nice and bright sunny beach weather, and I think that's rather fitting with a beachside track like the Circuit Zandvoort. Really, you are a bit of a short walking distance away from the ocean. That is a remarkable little feat indeed, or I suppose close to, is it the North Sea technically? That still connects to the Atlantic, so potato. It's really a matter of perspective. You can see here, this is Gonalons, one of the new Ferraris as well we spoke of just a moment ago. Matthias Gonalons in the 333. What a striking livery that is. I've got to say, a lot of these new arrivals are bringing some of the fashion back into this sport with these snazzy new liveries. Now, I understand, I believe this might be one of the new ones in that content update. Anyone feel free to validate that in the Twitch chat. I believe this is one of the new ones added in that 2024 update, and I've got to say, it is looking rather sharp. And I think he's able to rock the 333 pretty nicely there on that livery. I'm not, of course, too proficient in the knowledge of the GT World Challenge series myself. We just don't really have a lot of coverage of it here in the UK. See as well, one of the new drivers, Sergio Belda. We saw JM Quito just a moment ago, and he's one of 3 drivers, Quito, Belda, and Ivan Sanchez, that make up the Holkianos Motorsport team. Now we've seen what Quito can do. Heading to the line then goes Sergio Belda, 8th fastest towards the end of free practice there. Only a few more seconds to go before we're on towards qualifying today. I've got to say, it is rather impressive to see more and more drivers flocking to the Vale of the Sunday League, round in, round out, because it has not been a dull moment so far in the esteemed history of Sunday League Season 3. Last time we were here at the Circuit Zandvoort, as a matter of fact, was back in Season 1, Round 6, and that was won at home by the Flying Dutchman himself, Wesley Kuiper. Hayden Puttock second in that race, and then Christian Lebay, Season 1's champion-to-be in that race, finishing 3rd, making yet another appearance to the podium in the V12 Vantage. You have a look around the paddock as well. We can see here Liam Cross on his way out through the last set of corners here, on his way down toward the line. And we are but moments away then from the start of qualifying today. This is going to be a very, very interesting one here at the Circuit Zandvoort. It is Quite an interesting little track 2 lap. I think last time out, it's good that he mentions this as well. Hayden Puttock's actually, not Puttock, sorry, Hayden Prodger, different Hayden, is in the chat to recount his major incident. Those long-time fans of both TRTN and NLRL would remember that huge spin-out incident exiting turn 14 at Arie Luijendijk, where he span from the left-hand side of the track, caught a little bit of grass over the tyre, and it just hit on the brakes. The car rotated in, violently slammed the pit wall, if memory serves correctly, and that was a major off. That was the end of his hopes there. He was looking on pace to finish on the podium. So on towards the 20-minute qualifying for today, and it's going to be a lively paddock. We see already first out the gates is ever the season's early bird. You've got to respect the commitment here to be first to pull the trigger, and it's always the case for James Mason. Fastest hand in the paddock, this one, the number 413, always out the doors earliest of any one driver. Loves a fresh track, doesn't like traffic. You really got to respect the kind of hustle here to have your setup done like that in the snap of your fingers and out the door. Following on his trails then is Melvin Milliston and Scott Milbank to make our first 3 lapping cars of today. And I've got to say, it is not slow out the doors for these two. They're giving it 100% already right off the bat. 19 minutes just about to tick past now. 20 minutes total in the session, and they're wasting absolutely no time as we get going into round 3's qualifying. And so we'll stay on board with James Mason, as not only do we get to see the first of our flying laps today, if we're led to believe so watching these two, and dare I say, Milliston is challenging for the leading position of the qualifying run. Maybe we have to go on board with Melvin Milliston. Of course, he won in the last round of the championship at the moment. If we take a look at the previous wins here, it was Milliston taking the win in Alton Park, with Alexander Rozhnov winning at the previous Motorsports Vision circuit, the Brands Hatch circuit, for round 1 of the championship. It would have been 3 British races in a row had we stopped off at Silverstone. We've moved that now, as mentioned before, to the back of the calendar. So we're on board with James Mason for the start of qualifying today. For the first of our flying laps then, the 413 first out the gates and now first into the fray. As we go heading down the opening straight here, this would have been a DRS zone, or one of 2 as a matter of fact in Formula 1. Fortunately, no overtaking gimmicks down here in GT3. On our way through Tarzan corner then, turn 1. That banked on the inside. Named for the way that you can just swing your way through that corner as well. Garlach, Bocht and Hugenholtz spots, then turns 2 and 3. In through Hugenholtz. Or Hugenholtz, I'm not entirely sure. Not Dutch, of course. I don't know how to pronounce that. Out through turn 4 at Hunsrück. Then to turn 5. This section is a little bit smoother in the newer iteration. This is where a lot of the drivers would encounter some problem, especially out through Slotmaker Bocht and down through Schivlach. Turn 7 then to Masters Corner at turn 8. This is the roller coaster section of the track, often described by Formula 1 drivers, that gives it its almost go-karty appeals. Very similar kind of compliment awarded to the Hungaroring, if memory serves correctly. Out through turn 9 and turn 10. That's actually just what they're called, Bocht 9 and Bocht 10. On our way down what would be the second DRS straight. Down towards turns 11 and 12, one of the more iconic sections of the track, the Hans Ernst Bocht. Turns 11 and 12 here, where you face before the grandstands. In a very nice little curved crunch zone of the track. Expect to see some side-by-side action in and around this area of the track. Very few opportunities outside of that. Say, for example, turns 8, 9 and 10 would be your first of that 2 opportunities available. Now on our way through Kumo, then to Arie Luijendijk, down towards the line then. The first of our times coming in today from James Mason in round 3's quali. Bringing up the charts then, a 1:36.939. Now, bear in mind, we don't have any data to go off of in terms of qualifying pace. So Scott Milbank to the line then, and that's immediately usurped by Kevin Quain of Malwar Racing to put himself in provisional second. Jake Stratton, one of the new drivers of today and the first to take to the helm with Lamborghini, was briefly in the top 4, but here comes Cas van Veltzen, a heavy hitter of the championship and especially in qualifying as he puts himself 0.07 of a second ahead. Lucas Tartarin up to the pole position for the starting laps of qualifying today, and what an entry it has been in fact for Tartarin in there in the 3.63. Very mighty from the Ferrari right off the bat. Christian Lebay just crossed the line then. Season 1's champion and Season 2's runner-up. Makes 8th in quali after his first run there. Also see Byron Forrest, who he missed out on a fight with himself and James Mason for the podium. It was actually Mason's first ever podium last round in Alton Park. And sadly, we did miss out on that. We were watching another battle at the very same time as those two. I was told, though, by the pair of them, it was a fantastic little fight indeed. And our apologies for not being able to have covered that with the current pretenses of another fight going on our screens at the time. Having a look then, Timan Ivanov having crossed the line not long ago to make 6th position. Milbank now down to 7th. Thibaut, I should say, in 9th position. Stratton now to the back of the top 10. So let's see if we can catch on board with Mason as he's not too far away. Out through turn 13, then turn 14. Ari Luyendijk down towards the line we go. We can see Tyler Vermack leading the charge now out of the pit lane. So he will be setting some times very, very soon. See here, Byron Forrest and Lucas Tartarin actually caught up there with one another. We see Cas van Veltzen barreling his way down to the line. Kevin Quain's up to 4th, then ahead of Forrest to make a mile while 4-5 at the moment. Van Veltzen onto pole. Milliston right behind him. Milliston onto pole. We see Ivanov not too far away either. From 8th makes 4th. What are we going to see out of Lucas Tartarin and Byron Forrest with Thibaut in front of them? Towards the line we go, and not pole position reclaimed by Lucas Tartarin. So a remarkable start, and make no mistake, we're not even halfway into the session today, and already we're seeing a very exciting little three-way fight here between newcomer Tartarin, Cas van Veltzen, and Melvin Milliston. This is going to be a very, very exciting round today. Milliston, of course, leading the championship after those first 2 rounds as we head into round 3. So there are some definite stakes to play for here. He was quite the challenger in his day in Season 1 and 2, where he picked up wins in both championships and picked up his first in Season 3 last round at Alton Park, but he looks to keep the ball rolling here. Milliston appears this time to be here to stay. We thoroughly look forward to seeing then what the career path is going to look like in the Sunday League for the number 68, as he is looking more than definitely reinvigorated for a jolly good fight today. But really, most eyes, I'd say, on that paddock, especially in the top 5. Now, we'll discuss the rest of the field in a moment's time. Most of those eyes are on Lucas Tartarin, the new driver here in the paddock, one of several, as you can see, Thibaut in front of him, another new driver with BMW. And a lot of eyes then resting on Tartarin as one of the new drivers, but you see that mighty snatch on the inside of the Hans Erksbocht. Turns 11 and 12 can very easily throw the balance of the car off there for Tartarin. He found out the hard way. Fortunately, doesn't look to be making the same mistake again. We can see things have hotted up massively inside that top 3, as now entering the charge. Enter stage right, Scott Milbank in the number 44 McLaren, making 2nd fastest by 5 thousandths of a second to Cas van Veltzen's time. So that is remarkably close between the pair of them. James Mason still very much so in the fight as he's within a second of pole position. Inside that top 5, now relegated to the back of the top 5 for the time being, Lucas Tartarin. Then Christian Lebay on a mighty charge then. He was 9th, I believe, or he was 8th, then pushed down to 9th. Makes the charge back to 6th. Ivanov 7th, Quain 8th, Forrest 9th, Proger in 10th, Thibaut in 11th, Stratton 12th, Cross 13th, Belder 14th, Quito 15th, Bond 16th, Sanchez 17th, Gonalons, Vermack and Cheeseman yet to have set times there, but I believe we just saw Cheeseman set his first, and that puts him 12th as he crosses the line there with 12 minutes left to go, nearly halfway into the session today, and we are far from over. Make no mistake of that, ladies and gents. It is already rearing up to be a fantastic qualifying bout between these drivers today. We can see the gap between 2nd, 3rd and 4th is significantly closer than it is to the leading car of this quali session. Melvin Milliston is looking to come out both arms swinging, but what can Tyler Vermack say of it? We see right behind James Mason there was Tyler Vermack. He crosses the line for 6th fastest, putting himself ahead of team boss of the Malwar Racing team and also his teammate for this championship, Christian Lebay. Cas van Veltzen there, letting, I believe that was Byron no, as a matter of fact, it was Quain, if I'm not mistaken, through then. One of the other Mustangs of the Malwar Racing team. Yes, it was, as a matter of fact, number 607, Kevin Quain, let through there by Cas van Veltzen on our way to Hugenholtz at turn 3. For some of you in the server, about 30 minutes before we went live today, you may have been confused about some of the tests going on track, featuring a certain Ethan Oliver, most known in this series for driving the Bentley at Watkins Glen in the pouring wet conditions last season, now behind the wheel of a titular BMW M2 Cup car. And now this is coming in line with potentially some new regulations down the line by race control, especially with the advent of the Console Endurance Series Season 2 still being debated at this time, but is looking to make its appearance as early as next month, if we are to believe so correctly. And all of these tests are for the potential introduction of a safety car. And we do thank the drivers that showed out to that for their valuable contribution to the advancement of this new piece of technology for NLRL. Of course, it's not necessarily new in the world of motorsports. I'm pretty sure every single series has got some variety of safety vehicle. But very rare is it cited in the world of ACC. Normally, they like to go with your red flag to custom grid restart or your red flag to reorganize yourself ad hoc and restart about a lap later sort of restart. But this seems to be a little bit of a run forward for NLRL, and I do thoroughly look forward to seeing where that goes. We ourselves here at TRTN have been quite heavily invested in this progression for some time and are looking forward to seeing how it's implemented if it can be nailed down precisely. Watching here with Byron Forrest, now in 6th. Oh, in front of him there, that's Jake Stratton. The newcomer with Lamborghini, the first Lambo in this series, in serious jeopardy there on his way down towards, I believe that was, looking at it, I think turn 7 and 8 there, so between Schlierbach and Mastersbocht. Could be incorrect on that matter. Wasn't checking the map at the time. We're here with Hayden Prodger. He's outside of that top 10 at the moment. Not the greatest at the moment for qualifying pace, but we've seen what Prodger can do when the lights go green and we go racing. He is a man of serious commitment. And as we spoke on yesterday, but of course not many of you may have seen because that has now been delisted from Twitch because it was a red flagged race for the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship. Thank you so much, G-Portal, for making our job incredibly difficult to cover these races on a timely manner. But as mentioned before, Prodger was among a small ensemble of drivers on this grid that we had the pleasure of sharing the track with last weekend in the cancelled Silverstone round, where in which we had a spot of rallycross going on. And those of them that showed up was fantastic to have you on track with us, and it was a great little time, as we found out with Prodger as well. Since he's actually got silverware for competing in online rallycross championships, he's about as fast off the track as he is on it, so he is incredibly quick on everything with 4 wheels. We have just seen as well, speaking of quick, D-Man Ivanov up to 2nd then. The first of the drivers to break that 8/10 mark to Melvin Milliston's time. D-Man Ivanov, we've seen, is already proven himself a competent talent on qualifying day through the entirety of Season 2 and his time with Aston Martin. Now, as he moves into BMW, we always thought it was a bit of a gamble, much akin to what you could definitely say of another, to bring him up again, Hayden Prodger, in the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship. A vehicle swap this radical can cause quite a bit of discourse, quite a bit of grinding teeth for the first couple of rounds it's used, but Ivanov has really taken this BMW and ran with it. Having a look as well on our charts here from P3, and so this is what we're told at the moment from P3, so from Lucas Tartarin, he's now back up to 3rd. And within 8/10 now is our 2nd driver to do so. Keep an eye on the 363. Between him and 16th position is all within 1 second of one another. So that is a remarkable statistic. Now, you've got your aliens up above that, Ivanov and Milliston. Honestly, that is a absolutely feral time by the number 68. If anyone can shatter the mark set here by the Super Swede, I would be absolutely gobsmacked here in the commentary box. The only other McLaren to occupy that top 5, Scott Milbank, who has really had quite the spring in his step here, still 5 thousandths ahead of Cas van Velten. That's got to be eating away at him there. Such a finite gap between himself and a top 4 start to be on that 2nd row, to be in some of those power play positions for the race start of round 3. Bear in mind, he's also got his hands full making sure that fellow Ford Mustang Byron Forrest doesn't have a go for a top 5 start himself, as he's not too far away at all. You're still talking hundredths, if not thousandths of a second at this time. So this is really going to be quite something. That's 8 thousandths, if I'm not mistaken, there between Van Veltzen and Forrest. We just quickly check on board with the next driver to head to the line on what appears to be a valid lap. It's James Mason, who started the session off strong, is still going strong, still within a second of pole position as he heads from the line here. We just see that my friend Let Joe 7 has made a looking for group post. Some of you may actually know who that is. If you used to watch TRR, you will no doubt remember the likes of Let Joe 7. Forgot to turn my notifications off. Trust me, it's been a bit of an ad hoc day. Don't really want to get too much into it. Mason crosses the line then for 7th. Some of you might remember that name as well. Just to bring that back up, Let Joe 7 was, of course, a 4-time TRR F123 champion. Oh, that's big trouble for Mason over the curbs there. That is looking a bit nasty. I mean, with 5 minutes left to go, still an opportunity to play for an improvement here. He is not too far away at all. 6,000ths as it stands with Byron Forrest, but not anymore. What a time there by Forrest to put himself not only within half a second, but ever closer to the pivotal quarter of a second barrier. 0.383 of a second there by Forrest in the 8.24 is a truly remarkable feat indeed. Make no mistake, we are far from over here. Far from over. 119 is next to the line here. Christian Lebay, last time we saw him, he was in 6th position on qualifying. Making our way then down across the line. No improvement by the looks of it there for Christian Lebay on this lap, but bear in mind, just as mentioned, 5 minutes left to go. Number 68 is on his way to the line at the moment. I believe that is... Can't find him on the times there. No, that's 82. Who's 68 again? It's Melvin Milliston across the line, sorry. Might be a little, what's the word? Dyspraxic? Is it when you're dyslexic but with numbers? A little bit of that. Just a little bit. But we move. Number 607 then is next on a valid lap. It's Kevin Quain. Right on his tail then. New driver Jake Stratton with Lamborghini, and I've got to say it is quite a risky strategy. Now finally getting to bring up the topic of at least some quantifiable data for today's session is the balance of performance, and Lamborghini are not looking in their best at the moment. Stratton crosses the line from 13th, not to find an improvement on Aston Martin or Lexus towards their charge to the top 10 position car at the moment, Hayden Prodger in the 222. That Lamborghini is going to be struggling here on debut. 16 kilos on the Huracan. Ferrari gaining 13 kilos, McLaren gaining 9, Audi gaining 6, as too is the same for BMW. Ford gaining 5, Mercedes gaining 4, Porsche gaining 3. Then into the negatives here, Honda losing 3, Lexus losing 22, and Aston Martin's V12 Vantage losing a whopping 40 kilos. Business as usual then for the older cars at Lexus and Aston Martin, but as the record stands here for Lamborghini, it is not going to be a particularly fun entry here for Jake Stratton. I think it's going to be a bit of a survival race in the bookings here. He's right in the danger zone of what is a monstrously large grid. 21 cars in all at the moment. Could even be more on the way. I know another of our new drivers today, and as mentioned in that balance of performance, not only is it going to be Lamborghini struggling, but looking at it there, the second worst for it is Ferrari. The number 363 will be losing 13 kilos. Almost said the number 13 will be gaining even 363 kilos. That would be excessive, I would say. Much like what the FIA was doing with Ferrari's balance of performance in Sao Paulo, but that's besides the point. Lucas Tartarin then on his way down through turn 7 at Schlivak. I tell you, they do not make this an easy track to commentate for there. Trouble for Tartarin out through turn 8 at Masters. And you can see there's very little runoff available in this older configuration of Zandvoort. That's still something that rings relatively true in the modern day configuration of the circuit Zandvoort, but it is still quite a monstrous circuit to tackle in regards to hot lapping. 2 minutes left to go then. Tartarin still in the top 5 on debut. That is quite remarkable indeed. Do keep a very close eye then on the newcomer to the championship. You can see in the chat as well, that's, I believe, Wade Nater. That's Mike Wade. Long time no see. Of course, long time viewers of the TRTN channel will remember Mike Wade for his competition not only in the Sunday League but also over on VSI. It was a grand time watching his series of competitive races, and wonderful to see him in the chat as well. Tartarin then down to the line. It's been a bit of a rocky road on entry here, but he still maintains top 5 form. This is remarkable stuff for a newcomer to the Sunday League grids to challenge it by storm here. Now, of course, last time I think we saw something of this magnitude has been in, as a matter of fact, the last 2 rounds where we saw Alexander Rozhnov dominate the field after 3 season sign-ups but only 1 appearance. And then in round 2, Massimo Benedetti on his 1-time appearance in the Sunday League dominated, but it was all taken away by a mid-race disconnect. But nonetheless, he got back in the driver's seat and made it to the checkered flag, still inside the top 10. So that is absolute grit. Could we be seeing the makings of another Wonder Kid performance today then by the likes of Lucas Tartarin? Well, the next minute will tell you different. Right now, again, still inside that top 5. The 333 is next to the line. If we can catch on board with Gonalons just as he crosses the line here with about a minute to spare. He's got one more lap left in the tank here before the end of today's qualifying session. Seeing a driver next to the line out of turn 14 at Arie Luijendijk is James Mason. Started the session off strong, still in the top 10. We hate to parrot the same points over and over again, but it has still been a very solid consistency by the 413 today. We also saw across the line there was Liam Cross and the number 82, one of the new drivers of today as well. As we see now, better late than never for Tyler Vermaak, as he goes up to second place there, challenging even closer to pole position. But that's still a monstrous margin that we're seeing been reopened. It was getting closer and closer to 3, maybe 2/10 of a second. Melvin Milliston has been quick to reassure the paddock, come and have a go if you think you're fast enough. And evidently, there has been no comparative equal in today's qualifying session, but we could be proven wrong here. It's not over until it's over. So hang tight here, because we are still seeing our final laps of today. Thibaut to the line then. 233 from 16th position. Remains there for the race start. We can also see the number 420 of Cas van Velzen. Right in front of him is Ben Cheeseman. Both of them look to be heading into the pits. Van Velzen to the line from 7th. Sadly not to an improvement on this time around. He'll start in 7th position at the best of it. Getting on board with Matthias Gonalons, one of the new Ferrari drivers of today. The 333 on his way through turn 13, very end of qualifying. Takes a little bit of sand with him, so it doesn't look to be an improvement on the charts here from 17th position. Needs to find 2/10 of a second here if he means to get ahead of Thibaut in the 233. On his way to the line goes the 333 from 17th position. Sadly, not to an improvement this time around. The 413 then next to the line, James Mason. And in pursuit of him as well, the number 82 of Liam Cross. And the 835 of Tyler Vermaak. Mason then to the line from 8th. Stays 8th. Cross from the line from 14th. Looks to stay in 14th. Vermaak to the line. Does improve, but not to pole position. That seemed all but secure for the likes of Melvin Milliston today. A dominant performance by Sweden's finest. But here comes the wonder kid, Lucas Tartarin, the new driver in the paddock, maintaining top 5 current standing in today's quali session. What can he do as he's level on time with Diman Ivanov? He crosses the line and it will stay there down to the 1,000th between the number 1 and the number 363. That is truly remarkable. What a way to finish off qualifying today. That is absolutely mind-blowing between the number 1 and the number 363. Diman Ivanov and Lucas Tartarin on the exact same time here, down to the 1,000th. But Ivanov having set the time, I believe, later in the session or earlier. I'm not entirely sure. How does that get decided then? Is it earlier or later? Well, only time will tell. And not long then from the start of today's race. And as we stay on board then with the race leader, or the race starting leader, and on pole position, Melvin Milliston then will start from pole. And as we go away into the formation lap, we'll discuss the standing order then in qualifying today. And what a hotly contested session that turned out to be for everyone else. But who it wasn't hotly contested for at all was the man sitting atop pole position in the number 68. And a myriad of drivers have been caught out by that remarkably short run to the race start. Most drivers, I believe, were expecting that to be in and around the 2-minute range. You can see Milbank, Bond, Thibaut as well, all caught out there on the start of the formation lap. But let's have a gander then at the standing order here. Melvin Milliston starts from pole position. Tyler Vermaak in second place. Byron Forrest, on one of his best qualifying performances of the season, will start in third position. Diman Ivanov currently in fourth position as it stands. Having a look further down the order, Lucas Tartarin makes the back of the top 5. James Mason looks to be inheriting 6th position then from those 3 drivers struck down. Yeah, that was a really short time gap. That was a bit of a confusing one. And we're not able to see the full lineup there, as that has been quite a shake-up. So jumping into that gap then, James Mason will inherit 6th. That puts Ben Cheeseman 7th, Project 8th, LeBain 9th, and Quain in 10th position. Stratton in 11th, Cross 12th, Belder 13th, Gonalons 14th. We get down the order here. Sanchez 15th, Quito 16th, DeVos 17th, I believe there. That is a bit of a shaker. A bit of a shaker there because of that incredibly short run. Has caught quite a few drivers out. We'll stay on board then with Melvin Milliston. as we make our way into Sector 2 to quickly then discuss the news of today before we get racing here in the circuit Zandvoort. The first bit of news was discussed yesterday. Kalle Rovanperä and Joni Halttunen take a first place finish there after a 2-year drought at Rally Finland to make a Toyota 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first manufacturer's top 5 lockout we've seen since 1990 when Lancia competed at the Rally de Portugal. Our second bit of news, Aston Martin set to sell their stake in the Formula 1 team at valuations placed anywhere between £2 and £2.5 billion. And most recent bit of news right off the press here in the BTCC, the Power Max Racing HQ has been reportedly destroyed in an industrial fire. Hereford and Worcester Fire and Rescue Service responded to reports of a fire last night at about 11:50 BST. Team owner Adam Weaver told news teams absolutely everything is gone. The manufacturing warehouse, stock warehouse, and possibly the saddest of all, the race team. There is nothing at all left, not a thing, but stressed, I won't let this beat me, suggesting plans are already being drawn up for a long and painful rebuild. So, on our way then, down towards the line we go. After a very bizarre start to the formation lap today, quite a few drivers aren't going to be particularly happy with the way things stand there, but we are but moments away from the start of round 3 of the NLRL Sunday League Season 3 here at the circuit Zandvoort. You can see those gaps start to appear in the grid. Regardless of it, we have 20 drivers in today's race. A few of them will be starting from that pit lane. So heading down towards the line, we've got the faithful 18 here, able to make it to the track. What is going to be hell on earth? The short run takes us down the opening straight here on the run towards Tarzan at turn 1. And without further ado then, as we line up 18 cars in all, we are green and racing here for the hour at round 3 of the championship. And what a start already it has been by Melvin Milliston. Tyler Vermack looking to try and take him around the outside. We can see down the order as well, things already starting to get a little bit elbows out. You can see quite a few of the K1 drivers there caught up in the middle of the top 10. We can see Stratton clawing for dear life there to be at the back of that top 10. Cheeseman alongside Mason as well. Up through the front row, we can see that Byron Forrest was looking to fend off an attack there from Diman Ivanov. We can see LeBay up on the inside of Proger on our way through Hugenholtz. Quain right behind them. Then our 2 new drivers, Stratton and Cross, in 11th and 12th. See, Diman Ivanov has had a bit of a tumultuous start there. Caught up, I should say, by Lucas Tartarin. He now makes his way up to 4th. Current top 3 then, Milliston, Vermack and Forrest. Tartarin 4th, Ivanov 5th, Mason 6th, Cheeseman 7th, Proger 8th, and LeBay 9th. And Quain at the back of our top 10 at the moment. We can see Mason and Ivanov nearly getting into arms there on our way through turn 10. Mason trying his way for the inside then against Diman Ivanov. That's going to be to the outside at the start of Hans Erks, but he sweeps it around here. He's keeping a slightly more aggressive line, but he's actually been caught out by Ben Cheeseman on our way through turn 12. Now to turn 13, the 2K1 drivers side by side. Who yields first then in the competition for 6th place? And Mason with a big slide there nearly creates a catastrophic ripple effect that nearly caught the likes of his teammates out. You can see right behind them though, Hayden Proger now side by side with Ben Cheeseman, Christian LeBay riding the coattails of these two on the way down towards turn 1. McLaren slightly faster in a straight line to the Ferrari, but Proger still to the inside. Let's see if we can catch on board with these two, or more namely from the perspective, as my dog decided to kick off right in the middle of broadcast. We'll just quickly deal with that. You have no idea how much that frightened me there. I didn't even realize she was in the room. That's genuinely frightened me there. Tyler Vermack then in 2nd place at the moment. Diman Ivanov still inside that top 5. We were watching with Christian LeBay, who had clear line of sight on Proger and Cheeseman. Now he finds himself up and ahead of the McLaren, still chasing the Ferrari ahead. A little bit of dust kicked up into the eyes there of the 119. It's minor contact between the pair of them. Cheeseman and LeBay rub there on their way through turn 10. Kevin Quain picks up the scraps of it there, free position. On our way down towards turns 11 and 12 there. Truly, I cannot tell you what the dog is barking at now because she barks. Oh my word, in the background, that was Jake Stratton. Let's get a look at that on the instant replay. Oh my goodness, what happened to the Lamborghini there? Stratton sideways on his way into turn 11. Cheeseman, as we saw there, after that incident, finds himself down in ninth. But really, the question remains on our mind. What happened there to Jake Stratton? On his debut with Lamborghini and in the Sunday League, he's now in 18th position. It has not gone particularly well then for the brand new talent. Speaking of drivers who are brand new, Lucas Tartarin, and things have gone rather conversely very well for the likes of the 363. On our way then, out through turn 3, now to turn 4 and 5, on our way towards turn 6 as we enter the middle sector of the track. The Ferrari still on the trails here of Malwar Racing's Byron Forrest. This is all in contention for that top 3 at the moment. Still remains Milliston, Vermack, Forrest. Milliston is pulling a gap here, and Forrest is closing in on his teammate in the Lexus. We can see Mason is getting all manner of squirrely as we make our way into the middle sector. We quickly see here Sanchez and Quito have got Milbank boxed in after that move between himself and LeBay down at turn 10. So having a look around the field here to see where our next fights could be coming from. Pay close attention here to the fight right in the middle of it as he goes for the inside on Quito. Quito runs wide in turn 9. Milbank back up into 15th position then on the slow charge back into the top 10. Still, bear in mind, 55 minutes to go in this race today. Plenty of time to fight things back. Cheeseman into the wall though, so it's all gone horribly awry for Ben Cheeseman, where things have gone absolutely fantastic in the recovery for Milbank. It has all gone asunder for Ben Cheeseman. That's down at the Hans Ernst box there, turn 11 and 12. And he re-emerges in 18th position. He's behind Jake Stratton, who we saw earlier was part of the Lambo jump scare, as it was, down at this very section of the track. We quickly see here with Hayden Proger as he's looking at challenge. Oh my word, what happened there between Ivanov and looking back through the order, if we look on the replays, just the very brief glimpse we had of it, that was Mason and Ivanov. 2 BMWs caught up in there as well. Lord only knows what happened in the case of those two as well. We can't have our eyes absolutely everywhere. Cheeseman's into the pit. Stratton still on the track at the moment, but an incredibly damaged Mason and Ivanov are right in front of him. Stratton goes wide, and so too does Ivanov. He spins into the inside of the track. It's been absolute bedlam for the BMWs, who are inside that top 10 by a wide margin. It has all come asunder, cracked at the seams and shattered for BMW today. Disastrous stuff for Mason and Ivanov. Looking into our top 5 then, Hayden Proger and Lucas Tata in the story of 2 Ferraris. Proger, who picked up his first NLRL win in Imola not too long ago down in GT4, will be gunning for better results in GT3 this season. He's no stranger to a good performance here in the Sunday League, having picked up his fair share of podiums, but now he's looking to challenge just to be inside the top 4 against the new talent on the block, Lucas Tartarin, in the 363. You will have to forgive the dog's barking as well. It's a very complicated situation at home, and the dog hates being locked in here for some reason. To put it short, we did declare a medical emergency not long ago to all of our contract holders. As we speak, one of our dogs has given birth to a litter of 7. We sadly it was 10, but 3 have not made it, and they were stillborns. It's a mighty unfortunate situation. Right now, they're just moving the dog around. They need the others clear, and that's why they're in here with us in the commentary box, otherwise known as my room. So it's just forgive the noise. She's fine, the dog's fine, but if any of you have ever owned a German Shepherd, you know they're one of the most vocal dogs going, so that's just going to be a thing until they let her out. We're still on board then with Proger on his charge against Tartarin. On our way then, down towards Sector 2 and 3, in through Masters at turn 8. He's still in pursuit then of the other Ferrari, but having a look around the track to see where our next fights could be coming from, we see another story of 2 Ferraris, Quito and Sanchez, 2 of the Holkianos Motorsports cars there. We see in 13th and 14th, now got quite a ways to go before they're back up with Scott Milbank, who got between the pair of them not too long ago. We can see one of the other drivers further up the road. We can see just behind Matthias Gonalons is Sergio Belda. These 3 could find themselves in an imminent fight here. I want to point out Elias De Vos joined the session very late and started in last. And despite all of that, finds himself in the top 10. We can see, though, there was a temporary yellow flag out, and that withstands for the number 82. That's Liam Cross in trouble. As we can see there, the Hans Ernst yet another victim of this section of the track. We've seen it before with Cheeseman. We saw it a little bit with some of the other drivers over the course of practice and qualifying. We knew this was going to come back and bite someone, and it has bit Cross quite hard there. He's now down to 16th in this race with just under 10 minutes covered. So having a look around the field, we see Dave Bond making his way through, and he's got 14 seconds here to Liam Cross. Now, bear in mind, he was one of several drivers caught up with that 30-second warning at the session start, as opposed to the 2.5-minute warning we're used to in the Sunday League. So it has been a bit of a jolt to the system, to everyone, Bond included. So he's just doing what he can with the cards he's been given. And speaking of doing what you can with the cards you've been given, Diman Ivanov's taken his first and currently only mandated pit stop, looking to play the long game with 51 minutes to spare, knowing that BMW can do at least an hour and a half in the tank here at Zandvoort. He's going to be trying for a very, very long-winded comeback drive on strategy alone. He's 19th in this race, and one of only 2 drivers to have taken their mandatory pit stop, the other being Ben Cheeseman, who we saw go into the pits not long ago. Tyler Vermaat now 6.4 seconds from Melvin Milliston, but 2.9 seconds from Byron Forrest, with that gap withering down here in Sector 2 and 3. The 2 heavyweight Malwar cars from Lexus and Ford look to be potentially clashing heads in the next couple of minutes, as we see that gap is not coming down very slowly between the pair of them. Also an onlooker here to the other Malwar cars, and I must say it has been a real tour de force by the Malwar racing team today to have so many of their drivers inside the top 10 in the opening 10 minutes of this race. We have seen it's been quite a mixed bag over the course of the last 2 rounds for them, but this seems to be where all of the gears are meshing as they should, and the system is locked in. LeBay at the moment in 6th, but we're going to get on board with a few different battles here. First of all, Scott Milbank charging against Gonalons and Belder for the fight of 9th position. It's 10th at the moment for Milbank, and just too far away to challenge at this time for Gonalons' 9th position, but he's definitely going to have a very good go at it. Down through turn 2, now turn 3. Coming up here at Hugenholtz, a very bizarre line by the 333. Not a lot that Milbank can do at this time. We stay on board with Scott Milbank. We will be getting on board as well with Tartarin, who looks to be getting into a little bit of a fight of his own very, very shortly. At the moment, we're on board with Scott Milbank. Takes us through this hair-raising fight at the moment for 9th position in this race. And very wide there on the exit of turn 7. Shivlak goes... that was Matthias Gonalons in the 333. We could also see dust still kicked up in the eyes of the pair of them. We can see that Belder trying his way to the inside. So it looks to be more fight now between the 2 Ferraris. Very well done there by Scott Milbank, and mirroring the quote of the SAS, who dares wins there, because that is a fantastic move up the inside that he's managed to do there. Looking now at Christian LeBay, we do have a yellow flag out. It's for the number 3. And a moment of dread here, as that is yet again another yellow flag for Jake Stratton. With the new signing for Lamborghini, it has not gone particularly grand in his opening round here. The number 3 brings out the 2nd yellow flag of today's race. Fortunately, now, as he gets back going on his way out of turn 10 towards turns 11 and 12, we're back in the green flags for the time being. Proger then, right up the back end of Tartarin and Forrest. We'll stay on board here from the attacking driver's perspective here with Ferrari, Hayden Proger in a 3-way split for 3rd position in this race. And it's this section of the track that so many drivers are having their issues with, because unlike the newer configuration, this one is a little bit more awkwardly sculpted. It's got less advantageous banking in that area to facilitate better cornering. The drivers are really wrestling the controls of their machine in through that section of the track. Now, as we make our way through turns 9, now at turn 10 here, we can see potentially some side-by-side was planned there by Tartarin, but Byron runs it super long and keeps things up and ahead in 3rd. I must say, this is a fantastic performance we're seeing from the likes of Byron Forrest today. Defensive masterclass in the making, perhaps, as we're nearly a quarter of an hour into today's race. Having a look at where things stand then, after nearly 15 minutes in round 3 of the championship, things are still very slim and subject to change. As it stands, though, Melvin Milliston leads the charge. Tyler Vermack in second, Byron Forrest third, Lucas Tartarin in fourth. Hayden Prodger, who we're seeing on our screens at the moment, fighting for that third position between Tartarin and Forrest. He's in fifth at the moment. Christian LeBay there. The sonorous sound of that V12 Vantage signifies his position. He's in sixth and ahead of teammate Kevin Quain in seventh position. Elias DeVos on debut in eighth position there. Technically has signed up for 3 championships like Rojnov and has made a surprise appearance for today's round. Milbank in ninth and Gonalons in 10th. Belder in 11th. Sanchez 12th, Mason 13th, Keto 14th, Cross in 15th, Stratton 16th, Bond in 17th, Cheeseman in 18th, and Ivanov in 19th position. We just saw a change of position there, trying to see who it was for. Sadly, we didn't quite catch that there. It could have actually been between these two here, Milbank and DeVos, who are only a 10th away from one another. We'll be checking in on that fight very, very shortly. But let's get back on board then with that three-way split. As now we're going to have to depart from the perspective of Prodger and get on board with the new Ferrari on the block. And that's Lucas Tartarin. He's getting closer and closer to having Byron Forrest in the palm of his hand here. But we've seen already in supposedly what we were told, at least, at the Alton Park fight, that Byron Forrest is not an easy customer to sway here. He is going to hold on for third position with his dearest possible life in this section of the track. Down through turn 11, now turn 12. So a quarter of an hour in, we're expecting in about 15 to 20 minutes then our scheduled mandatory pit stops. They always tend to be in and around 10 minutes either side of the halfway mark. A bit of a stab of oversteer for Tartarin. Sets him 6/10ths off at the moment from Byron Forrest. He's not going to have any of that juicy slipstream from the Ford Mustang on his way down the opening straight. He's actually going to be at the mercy here of Hayden Prodger, who had a better exit of that line. Despite that, was 4/10ths slower in the last lap, but faster in Sector 3. So make no mistake of that, it is a massive case of a concertina effect for our top 3 fight at the moment. Tartarin may be struggling a little bit there. We've seen that his line has started to degrade over the course of the last couple of laps. A few more mistakes creeping in here and there. Could he find himself vulnerable to a potential move in the future from Hayden Prodger? Because that gap is starting to equalise between himself and Forrest and himself and Prodger. Only time will tell us different. Here's JM Keto just crossing the line there in 15th. 1:45.440 was his last lap. He makes his way down to turn 1. Let's get on board, though, with the 1:11 of Elias DeVos and Scott Milbank in that fight for 8th position. Bear in mind, both of these drivers are K1 Esports drivers. They'll be contributing points to the K1 Esports toll in the Teams Championship. Another yellow flag, and it's the number 3 yet again of Jake Stratton in the Lamborghini. I said that that car was going to struggle. Let's see if we can find him here. And it has definitely not gone well. We see DeVos and Milbank are just absolutely throwing the kitchen sink at one another. Stratton's back on the field there and looks to potentially get lapped by Dave Bond. Let's get back on board, though, with Milbank and DeVos. I think we're missing out a little bit on quite the exciting little fight here for 8th position. Ferrari versus McLaren, two of the most prominent faces on ACC, going head-to-head here at the Circuit Zandvoort. See, it's in and around this section that Ferrari seem to have so many troubles, and it was the same story as well for that infamous crash at round 6 of Season 1 for Hayden Prodger. Fortunately, he won't get fooled again in the regards to that move. And we can see Milbank right in the slipstream of Elias DeVos on his way to the inside. Doesn't have enough room for it. He's biding his time, waiting for a move potentially into Hugenholtz. Is this the longest-winded switchback you've seen in your life? It could be. Heading out of turn 2, then to turn 3. No, as a matter of fact, good defensive performance by Elias DeVos. We'll stay on board with Milbank as we observe this fight for 8th position. That gap is only continuing to grow, by the way, between the two leading cars. Melvin Milliston has just disappeared up the road from Tyler Vermack, who still has Byron Forrest in relative company. Lucas Tartarin is not too far away either from Forrest, so much more going on in that department than what we're seeing directly up front here. Milbank, though, is creeping ever closer to the likes of Elias DeVos. We'll stay on board with these two, as mentioned before. I don't think we want to miss this, but at the same time, there is still that fight going on between Tartarin and Forrest, and that could explode at any time. So on our way in towards turn 13. Yellow flags are out for the 107. Dave Bond was in momentary trouble. That's quickly cleared itself back into green flags for the time being. That did catch us a little off guard. That was down into turn 8 of Masters Corner. Turn 8 there, Masters Bocht between itself and Shivlak at turn 7. And there's the dog kicking off for the second time. It's just part of this. It's just part of what's going on today. So yeah, trust me, it won't be the same next weekend with any hopes. I mean, you can't give birth twice in less than a month, right? Surely. So, still watching with Milbank and his charge against DeVos. I must say, that Ferrari is really putting in the shift here today. Started in last after missing qualifying, currently defending 8th from the likes of Scott Milbank. Now, that has not been an easy feat at all for Elias DeVos, considering he's got very little track time with this crowd in the Sunday League. He is a very, very rare customer indeed. He did sign up, same story as Alexander Rozhnov. He did sign up for the last 2 championships, but was seldom sighted ever hitting the tarmac in it. But this is the first we see of it. And did we see almost a little tuck of the rear end? Is he steering with the brakes now? I mean, that is remarkable. That's rally techniques we're seeing a little bit there out of Elias DeVos, unless that was just a touch of desync on our end. Still watching with Milbank. Just biding his time now, waiting to see where the Ferrari's at its weakest. Doesn't take really any bite of the curb on the inside at turn 12. We've seen how many times that's caught drivers out. Milbank's got a very good run of it here, and he's going to have to elevate this into a run down the opening straight. Is this his best opportunity to do so? He's going to hold things flat to the throttle here, pedal to the metal on his way down towards turn 14. Ari Luyendijk now gives rise to the opening straight. Milbank is in the slipstream. Has he got enough room this time as he tucks away from the slipstream of Elias DeVos, giving him the intonation, hey, I'm looking for the inside. You might want to defend that. And so too does Elias DeVos. I must say, great defensive performance. Now, we must consider as well the obvious pretenses. These two are teammates. They are working towards a common goal here. Fighting with one another side by side isn't in K1's greatest interests, but what if it wouldn't be interesting to see where things go? So having a look around the track, you can see it's a lonely, lonely stead at the top here for Melvin Milliston. He finds himself double figures from any one driver on track. It's very lonely at the top. So it seems for the potential champion of Season 3. Maybe too early to speak on that, but he is leading and probably going to continue to lead by quite the margin heading into round 4. Stratton in the pits then for the second time today does raise quite a few alarm bells for the performance of Lamborghini. We saw balance of performance was seldom on their side coming into today's race, and it's only gotten worse for the likes of Stratton today under the airtight pressure of performance here in the Sunday League. Having a look there, we can see Liam Cross being lapped by Tyler Vermack up the field as we're watching from the perspective of Lucas Tartar. And I must say, it has been a rather upstanding performance on debut. You don't get many like it. And I think we're seeing quite the treat here. 3 races and 3 brand new talents showing us what for. Now, maybe this isn't on the same case as last round's performance by Massimo Benedetti, but you can really make the argument that had he started season 1 the same time, not season 1, sorry, had he started the season at round 1 like everyone else, Lucas Tartarin would definitely be a tough customer for the Season 3 championship. Having a look around the field, not the greatest day in the sun then for the Holkianos Motorsport team on debut. We see JM Quito in 14th, Sergio Belda in 13th, Ivan Sanchez in 12th, all 3 of them outside of the top 10. Looking in the top 10 though, we can see Matthias Gololons challenging James Mason, who has made his way then after his incidents up into the top 10. That is remarkable stuff then for the 413. He's practically immortal, as it were, that 413. You can kick him down oh so many times, but he is going to get back up and he's going to come out both arms swinging, and that is the case we're seeing right now because Gololons is losing steam against what appears to be a damaged James Mason. And this applies to both the track and real life, because those of you who have been watching the Sunday League all the way back in Season 1 will remember that James Mason competed in half the championship with an arm injury. He had an arm in a cast and still competed on a rig, not using a controller if memory serves correctly, and was still raking in a top 10 finish on most rounds of that championship. So he is a practically immortal figure on this grid and for the K1 Esports team. See Elias DeVos and Scott Milbank, his teammates, up the field at the moment, 8th and 9th. So 3 K1 drivers inside the top 10. That's a big hit against the wall, though, for Elias DeVos. Getting a look at that on the replays as we're watching at the moment. Scott Milbank does get the position up on him as we head down into turn 1. And that seemed a bit of a forfeit after that hit. That was quite nasty there. Nasty bit of understeer for him on the exit of turn 14 at Arie Luijendijk. See that Elias DeVos does have quite the significant bit of damage over the left-hand side. We don't know how much that's affecting, whether or not that's got his steering or not. You can see it doesn't look actually too bothered by it, but the aero is definitely going to be feeling the effect of that. And he'll be feeling the effect of it when he comes into the pits and they start suggesting new pieces of bodywork to go on that Ferrari. Looking inside the top 3 then, Byron Forrest on one of his best performances of the season so far. Now, he was within a hair's width of a shot at the podium in Alton Park in his fight against James Mason of K1 Esports, who went on to pick up his first ever career podium in NLRL in a historic first for the 413. Right now, Forrest has shook the tail off of Lucas Tartarin, now sandwiched in between Cross and Cheeseman in their fight for 15th position, and is skipping away up into the top 3. Actually eyeing up a sight here at a front row finish as he's reeling in slowly but surely. Now, this started off at about 2.3, 2.4 seconds, came down to about 1.9 for a bit. We can see Mac is losing steam. Now, are we going to see a similar situation as to what we saw with the likes of Milbank and DeVos, where these are 2 teammates? Yes, they are performing very close to standard with one another, but is there that suggestion that it's even realistic for them to fight when they've got such good performances today? Having a look around the field, and it is a yellow flag for the 363. This is another incident down the inside. The 363, that was Lucas Tartarin caught up with Ben Cheeseman. So not sure what's gone on there. I believe Tartarin trying to lap Cheeseman has collided, or in one way or another, one has collided with the other in their efforts to lap around turn 1, and it has all gone pear-shaped for Lucas Tartarin. Now finds himself down in 7th position. He may be down, but not out of this race. You can see still running strong in the 363. Cheeseman, though, has took a bit of a knock to the confidence there. 114 down to 16th. Lost out on his chance to fight for 15th when he was sandwiched in the fight with the lapping cars. See, Kevin Quain is reeling in Hayden Prodger. Now, we saw Prodger get his hands full earlier at the start of the race. He settled into a rhythm here in the top 5 as the top-scoring car for the K1 Esports team at this time. But he may have a bit of grief on his way, courtesy of the 607 of Kevin Quain. That Ford Mustang is reeling him in slowly but surely. And you'll see it's primarily here in these open straight sections of the track where that 5.4 has just got supreme advantage in regards to the engine specs. It's just got much better top end than the Ferrari. It's maneuverability versus straight line speed here. So this is going to be a fantastic little study as to who comes out on top in that fight for the top 5. We'll catch up with them in a moment's time as we check in with a wounded Lucas Tartarin. He started off today's session incredibly strong and kept things going there, already leapfrogging a position from 5th to 4th at the start of today's race, but nearing the halfway mark, things have gone awry, and he collided with Ben Cheeseman on his way around turn 1. As you see already, a swath of new pit stop entries, including Tartarin. Christian LeBay's in the pits at the moment as well, and I believe the same story we saw for Hayden Prodger also in the pits there. Tartarin and Keto as well. JM Keto from the Hokianos Motorsport team just at the back of the top 15 today. So we were expecting maybe about 5 minutes later than where we're at the moment, but earlier pit stops seem to be the order of the day, and I think that comes part and parcel of the fact that Zandvoort is not a particularly favourable track for tyre preservation, and that's a going rate from across its older and newer configurations. LeBay, you can see they're making his way out. We see with Matthias Gonalons and the 333s in the pits right now with Ferrari. See one driver that's already taken their pit stop, Sergio Belda with Hokianos, now scratching his way closer to a top 15. He's 6.7, make it 6.8 seconds from 15th. That's Ben Cheeseman, who we saw earlier. Elias DeVos now has got quite some distance between himself and Scott Milbank after that incident at Arie Luijendijk. We pull up the replay on that. I believe we still have that fresh in our minds. That was down at turns 13 and 14. This is when he was still ahead of Milbank in that fight for 8th position, but just a big chunk of understeer hit him there. And DeVos found himself in the wall on the exit of Arie Luijendijk at turn 14. Right now, he's 1.7 seconds behind the teammate that he was leading the charge on from 8th position. But the pair of them, through staying out on track here, have actually found a net positive for those positions. But we'll see how quickly that falls away when the cars in front of them return to center stage. We can see a swath of penalties, though, after those first run of pit stops. Gonalons did an invalid pit stop there because it still counts as one, and plus he's been netted a drive-through penalty. Hayden Prodger, after his pit stop, got a stop-go 30-second penalty there. He's not going to be doing great for his performance in today's race, and I'm sure he's going to be beside himself there, besmirched by anger as he makes his way into Hans Ernst. And is, again, like I mentioned before, really not an easy track to commentate for. They do not like English commentators here. Tyler Vermack having took his pit stop there. We can also see Kevin Quains come in for his pit stop. Same story for James Mason and Ivan Sanchez with Holkianos Motorsport. Having snuck his way into the top 10 there, he's done remarkably well so far. And with 31 minutes against the clock here, could we be seeing this new team on the block make their way to the top 10 in today's race? Only time will tell us different then. Checking back out on the field, Milbank and DeVos now make that second row, but either of them have not suggested a chance in the pit lanes just yet. We're at the halfway mark in about 50 seconds. What driver of these two, which one is going to pull the trigger and come into the pits? We've seen it's already been rather strong performance from the pair of them. Now, this is riding on the line for quite high-stakes stuff for the K1 Esports team. They've been looking for their ambitions to overtake MSA, and this is their best possible opportunity to do so in the team's championship. They get some solid points in today. There's nothing to say they can't leapfrog MSA up into second in the championship right now. But it's a long way to go, and we're only in round 3 of the championship with 7 more rounds before the season end. We see going into the pits there, Milbank was thinking about it. What was that there by Scott Milbank? A bizarre little move. As emerging ahead of them at the moment, that's trouble for, that's Hayden Prodger. So it's gone from bad to worse there, and I'm not surprised by what I've seen. Yeah, I think after having taken a stop-go 30-second penalty, I think I'd also do the same if that was the exit I got. That's gone horribly, horribly wrong for Hayden Prodger. So having a look around the field, Byron Forrest, who was on that podium not long ago, emerges in the top 5 there. Tyler Vermack, his teammate, emerging only a second and a half ahead of him. So in this second stint, if Forrest can properly lock in and find just a little bit more pace out of that Mustang, we could be seeing these two fight for what is an inherited second position. I don't think anyone in their right minds is in the leagues to be challenging that race leader today. Melvin Milliston, who we see now, makes his way into the pits, and honestly, I don't even see anyone overtaking him now as he makes his way in. Bear in mind, the regulations state a minimum 25-second pit stop. We don't actually know for certain, such as the enjoyment of using anything in regards to ACCs, the fact that we don't actually know anything in regards to how all of this works. I can claim indifference because I'm media, but I beg to wonder what's going on with the race control team. They've got to be whisking up potions and reading the grimoire in order to get this stuff to work. I couldn't fathom it. Milbank and DeVos then could actually overtake Milliston, but we'll see what Milbank plans to do as Ivanov takes a big chunk of gravel with him there at turn 13. Let's just check here. Scott Milbank's in, and there's Elias DeVos as well. So Milliston will be joined by 2 little guests here from the K1 Esports team, but he's not going to be staying for particularly long, as not a moment later he drops off the air jacks and off goes the number 68, the number 44 and the 111 are in, and just coming to a stop there. They're up onto the jacks now, Milbank and Elias DeVos. Getting a look in with the Malwar team, we see Christian LeBay and Byron Forrest, and they're joined in a 4-5-6 rolling formation with Tyler Vermack. It's looking like a real, as mentioned before, tour de force from the Malwar team. They are looking to extend that lead of the championship. With new teams emerging here, single driver and multi-driver entries alike, Malwar is not looking to be challenged in this championship. They are looking for absolutely imperial performance, and that is precisely what they're getting here at the behest of Vermack, Forrest and LeBay. Now in a 2-3-4 formation, Milbank picks up a 30-second time penalty after his run in the pits. So that has come asunder for Scott Milbank. Elias DeVos exits with very little trouble, but he's sandwiched there between himself and Kevin Quain and Lucas Tartarin. So this is a very dicey exit for Elias DeVos, out of the frying pan and into the fire as he exits that pit lane run. But this does keep him in pretty close stead for what is going to be, by the looks of it here, at least a challenge of 5th, because with Milbank having to take that stop go, the 2 cars in front of him, 6th and 7th, that being Tartarin and Quain. Elias DeVos, if he can pick up the steam here in the next lap and a half to stay with these two, could absolutely have a challenge here of a top 5 finish. And must I say, that is a remarkable turnaround from where he started the race at. See here, Byron Forrest back on the podium after all things said and done with that pit lane run. Having a look with 26 minutes left to go, you can see all but 2 drivers have left to pit there. And as we see, that now becomes only 1 driver left to have taken a valid pit stop as Dave Bond takes his. Matthias Gonalons will be beside himself there. We did see him in the pits earlier. I want to go on record as to say that. I'm fairly certain we did see the 333 maker run into the pits, but it came out and it didn't count. So he obviously did not take fuel. So having a look at the overall standing here, we're beyond the halfway mark of the race with 26 minutes left to go in what has been a bit of a chaotic round for both recording and for racing, because you really just can't predict where things will go next. Right now, Melvin Milliston leads from Tyler Vermack, Byron Forrest in 3rd, Christian LeBay in 4th position. Scott Milbank, who was 5th, takes his run into the pit lane. That'll be Lucas Tartarin up to the top 5. Kevin Quain is right with him on our way down towards turn 1. He's already had trouble once here at turn 1. Does he find it twice? Not this time around. Must say, that has been fantastic stuff so far by Tartarin. An omnipresent figure in that top 10, and now looks to be getting his hands full in the fight at the last of those top 5 positions. Let's stay on board with the car, slap bang in the middle, as right behind him is K1's Elias DeVos. Right in front of him is Lucas Tartarin. This is Kevin Quain, number 607. Used to be 706 last season. So I am puzzled by that turnaround. He's side by side, and that is really quite a send. And he sends Tartarin round for his efforts. Controversial as it may be, that was feral. Have a gander at that on the replays and make your assumptions accordingly. He made quite the lunge. Tartarin got shoved there. He spun around at the banked section out of turn 7 at Shivlak. Lucas Tartarin will not be happy at all there with what has gone on. He now finds himself, if we try and catch up with the 363, with hopes that he's still in the session right now. Where, oh where could Lucas Tartarin be? Don't tell me he left. Oh, don't tell me he left. That would be absolutely gut-wrenching. I believe so, and honestly, after something like that, you can't really blame him. That is definitely not the way I thought he would have took that, but fair enough. That send on the inside. Quain did go for it. Yeah, I do agree with some of the people in chat. He did hold the line. He did go for it. It was risky as all hell, though, especially in that section of the track, knowing even the slightest tap. Now, anyone who's raced on banked surfaces can tell you the slightest tap is death. It is an immediate death sentence. Anyone who's done oval racing or NASCAR can tell you the same as well. Just any kind of contact in a corner on a banked surface is almost asking for trouble at that point. Would I say that's entirely on Quain? He had the room. He did go for it. It was a bit obtuse, but he held the line. You can see that's what the line would normally look like. So I think what we're dealing with here a little bit, and I hate to sound like the broken record that I am in referencing Formula 1 over the course of my time as a commentator, but you can't really not draw the comparisons to Cops at 2021 Silverstone. It is a case where, yes, you can take the line differently, and he did have the inside line, but could it have been done differently? That's going to be a bit of a conundrum for the race control, and I do not envy the job they have at hand, because that is going to be a real nasty one to pick apart. Me personally, I don't really know. It's a very, very tough decision. Quain did go for an incredibly risky lunge. You can make the argument that it has been disregarding any kind of safety there for the drivers around him, but he did go for it, and he did hold the line, and it was contact with the Ferrari against him. It's a tough one. I'm not race control, and I don't get paid enough to be race control, so we'll just continue on with what we're doing here. 22 minutes left to go. Milliston leads. Vermack 2nd, Forrest 3rd, LeBay 4th, Quain in 5th. Voss 6th, Mason 7th, Cross 8th, Sanchez 9th, Gololons in 10th, Milbank 11th, Imanov 12th, Belter 13th, Quito 14th, and Bond 15th. It has been a slaughterhouse. 5 DNFs in this race today. What started with 20 drivers has now narrowed down to 15. This may be the reason we didn't come back to Zandvoort. I was always scratching my head in the conundrum as to why series tend to sidestep Zandvoort so much. I think it's because it's the proverbial Thunderdome of Assetto Corsa Competizione. They really don't play around on this track, and you can see it is just dune after dune after dune of gravel and sand on all sides of it. Very little margin for error in the runoff. Claustrophobically tight corners. It's a recipe for disaster. And where Formula Ones can absolutely handle it with reckless abandon, I don't think you need a scientist to tell you these aren't Formula One. It's always bedlam when we come to Zandvoort, and if memory serves correctly, it was no different back in Season 1. It is a pleasure, though, to be back here at the Circuit Zandvoort, but I think we've been given a pretty harsh reminder as to why it completely missed Season 2's calendar. Right now, though, things are simmering down, and the bulk of our battles have ended in bloodshed. Right now, though, we can see the immediate proceedings of a fight here for 8th. Liam Cross versus Ivan Sanchez, two brand new drivers here, look to go head to head in a moment's time. Checking with Byron Forrest. He's still in 3rd at the moment, 8.3 seconds from Lebay, 7.1 from Vermac. It's one of the most dominant performances we've seen from Malois in this championship so far. 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. If you need any kind of demonstration, Malois are not here to play around. Look no further than the screen right now. 20 minutes left to go, and they hold all positions but 1st there in that top 4. Actually, in that top 5, because having a little gander outside, here's Kevin Quain, the subject of a bit of recent controversy there after his move against Lucas Tartarin in the 363. That it's gonna be a dicey one to dissect. We saw Elias De Vos get quite the bit of gravel there, channeling a little bit of the rallycross energy from last weekend. He didn't make a show of it though. Also see a fight going on here. Sergio Belda versus D-Man Ivanov. Ivanov much further back than he'd like to be today. It's damage control for last season's runner-up. He was one of 3 in that fight alongside LeBay and Bush for Season 2's championship. Ultimately went to the American Jason Bush and the number 33 Lexus, whom I believe, if the track record is to prove correct, may also still be in the chat today. So he's been quite a regular customer, and this is his disciple. He was the driving force behind Vermac's move to Lexus, and I think we've repeated this ad nauseum in every single race, but it is a remarkable little story when you followed one driver for such a significant amount of time, and it's the same reason we also pay pretty close attention to LeBay and also to drivers like Wesley Kuiper, to Melvin Milliston, and also to have a look at drivers such as Hayden Prodger. When you've studied a driver for a long time, you ran into the same name for a long time, you start to build up quite the extensive profile of the person you're dealing with, and Vermac has quite a mixed history on this game. It's a big slide there through turn 8, then turn 9, I should say, in through turn 10. So right now, as the team championships stand, bear in mind it is the top 2 scoring positions. Now, in the Drivers' Championship, I don't think Vermac, Forrest, LeBay, or Quain will be arguing at all with where they're at in the race so far. But it will only be Vermac and Forrest laying in points for that coveted team's championship. As for the K1 drivers, who are looking to be the potential runner-ups here after round 3 of the championship, especially heading into round 4, look no further than the examples of Elias De Vos, currently in 6th, and James Mason right behind him there by half a second in 7th position. Liam Cross there in 8th position in the number 82. And then looking further towards the back of that top 10, we can see the first of our scoring drivers for the team's championship once more. That's Ivan Sanchez with the Holkianos team. The other scoring for that will be Sergio Belda down in 13th position. See in between them at the moment, we can see Matthias Gonalons in the pits there, gets passed up by D-Man Ivanov and Sergio Belda for 11th and 12th position. So with 18 minutes to go, things are still rearing up. We're getting back on ball. Hang on a moment. So we did see just the moment we cut away was the starting of a little bit of a fight here between Ivanov and Belda. This is the first time we got to see Sergio Belda get his elbows out, and he does so remarkably well. What a move to the inside we just saw there. That was clean. Super, super clean. So clean you can see your reflection in it there by Sergio Belda. clinical work, but here comes D-Man Ivanov. He's not going to be taking this one lying down, and on our way to turn 11 and 12, he's back up the inside. Now, this is where things have gone asunder for so many in this race, but Belder holds the outside on Ivanov. I must say, this is breathtaking stuff between the pair. This is all in that fight for 11th position. We can see the driver in second there, Tyler Vermack, looking to lap them in a moment's time. Our eyes absolutely super glued to the fight between Belder and Ivanov. Do pay close attention to the reunited pair of Voss and Mason. The two K1 drivers, they're separated by only half a second, but these two don't have the same constraints of working together as a team. D-Man Ivanov wants the glory for himself here for 11th, and up on the inside of Sergio Belder. Does he land the move past the apex? Yes. So very well done there. Great tit for tat back and forth between these two. Belder is not done, though. We can see the aggressive line, but he takes quite a chunk of grass there, having to let Tyler Vermack roll on through. Ivanov will have to reciprocate there. We'll see, though, where things go in the next 16 and a half minutes. Let's check in then with James Mason and Elias de Vos. They've now swapped positions. Mason's up to 6th, Vos down to 7th. Both of whom dealing with a fairly solid amount of damage there. We saw the reason for Voss's. For Mason as well, we saw part of the reason earlier on in today's race. It has been quite the shake-up, though, here in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, and I don't argue with the fact that this is a fantastic track, but it has been, like I said before, a bloodbath. You see Vermack there finally lapping Ivanov. So I'm told as well, De Vos went wide at the hairpin and Mason went on through, so that wasn't team orders. They are still allowed to fight with one another. And let's get on board here with Elias de Vos now. What is going to be his strategy in taking back control of 6th place? Bear in mind, they still have that Drivers' Championship to fight for. James Mason is very much so a part of it. Elias de Vos still looking to make his mark here. With that drop point system, it will be helping him if he can continue to show up to more rounds here, as those first two will just be counted out at the end of the season. Stay on board then with Elias de Vos. Currently in that fight for 6th position. Now, he originally lost out due to driver error when he went wide of the hairpin. Mason, though, is looking to make this a very tough position to gambit for. And on the exit of turn 10, he was actually almost sliding the 413 on his way out. So down towards turn 11 and 12 we go. Watching from Voss's perspective. A quarter of an hour left to go. You can see the hesitation on the throttle there once he got quite a decent standing on the curb on the inside. We've seen so many drivers get a little too trigger happy, get on the throttle too early and take a big snap of oversteer. See, Matthias Gonalons in the pits at the moment, serving a stop-go 30-second penalty. Is on his way out, and finally, all things said and done, verified by the stewards to continue racing with no interruption. Still watching with Elias de Vos now. Has this been a move too risky for him now to try and get back past Mason? Are they content to stay where they are? Mason has more of a stake in this championship so far, having showed up to the last 2 rounds. That very nearly got into contact between the pair of them. We saw that play out in slow motion almost there with a cut over the grass. He was almost careening his way down towards Hugenholtz at turn 3, now through Hunsrück. Out through turn 5, now turn 6. We'll stay on board with these two. We'll be back in just a moment's time. So you see there, that is one of the major cruxes for where the race can go wrong. We've seen it go wrong before with Quain and Tartarin. Does it go wrong this time for Mason and de Vos? Not this time around. We'll stay on board. Down into Hansert, then turn 11 and 12. There's been a lot of background noise today, just as a personal note there. It's outstanding circumstances, I can't be too upset. So for de Vos v Mason, now through Aalruijendijk at turn 14. Now this is the very same section of the track that de Vos has been getting wrong lap in, lap out, and even so much so that he took a trip into the tyre wall on the far left hand side, but not this time around. We're seeing that progression here in his performance. He's learning very quickly the do's and don'ts of sector 3. And he is sweeping it closer and closer. Now 0.3 of a second. It was half a second the last lap just gone. De Vos is getting closer and closer of a chance on the inside. It doesn't take that first opportunity where it lies, because a move to the inside at Hugenholt from that distance normally spells quite the nasty bit of disaster. Having a look around the field and see where our next fights are coming from as we stay on board with the fight for 6th position between Mason and De Vos for those top scoring positions at K1. See the Milbank and Sanchez look to be getting into arms about it as well. Down the inside goes Scott Milbank. Oh my word, that was far. He is not playing around anymore. Scott Milbank has had the highs and lows on all quarters of this race, and he is not happy. You can tell now this is an enraged drive by the 44. Very rare do we get to see the cracks in the icy cool facade Milbank brings to the table in the last 3 seasons, but this is an enraged number 44. I would be very, very careful how you tread around this careening McLaren. Checking in with De Vos then. In this fight against Mason, that gap now out north of a second, nearly a second and a tenth there. So looking to fall by the wayside here for Elias De Vos. He'll settle into a rhythm to at least finish in the top 10, as that Ferrari has been nothing short of a real pain in the backside for the 111. Funnily enough, sporting the same number as Wesley Kuiper, who was the last driver to win here at Zandvoort in the Sunday League back in Season 1, Round 6, as we mentioned earlier on in the stream. They're paying homage there to the Flying Dutchman of the Sunday League, Wesley Kuiper, who still, I should note, holds the all-time record for race wins. Now, that's a joint record at this time with all race wins this season. It's a joint first place with 5 race wins total over the course of the 3 seasons the Sunday Leagues ran for. Wesley Kuiper was the first to hit that mark. Jason Bush hit the mark for the second person to do so. And then looking down through the order, Melvin Milliston will be challenging for his 4th overall career win. So he will be looking for more silverware here and could be making history if he keeps on this kind of form towards the end of the season. Dare I say even towards the midway of the season we could be seeing this out of Milliston. And looking further down the order, we've got Rosnov, Skeen, Ivanov, Martijn van Manen, Hayden Puttick and Louis Baptiste to make all of our race winners over the course of the 3 seasons of the Sunday League that has ran. We have an update from one of our informants, K1 Jupiter, saying that Wesley Kuiper, and since his move over to iRacing, he's currently, as we speak, over in iRacing, quote, getting murdered in IMSA Opens. Well, we do wish him the best, because I would not wish that on my worst enemies. Gun to your head, play a iRacing Open lobby, just pull the trigger, in my opinion, just pull the trigger. Down through turn 14 we go then, Elias De Vos versus James Mason. This is closer than we've ever seen it between the pair. Now, I don't think anyone's giving them orders here to play it cool. Mason just has better straight line speed there down the opening straight. De Vos very, very late on the brakes to stay with that BMW. We can see as well, hanging onto the back of them from 15th position, Matthias Gonalons. Also to see down the line the emergence of a battle here for 13th. JM Quito versus Dave Bond. On their way over towards turn 6 and 7. Bond started this race towards the back because of that unexpected short pre-race time there, catching quite a few drivers off. But he's just been able to keep himself out of trouble, really, and has gained massively for it. Started the race in 20th, has gained 6 positions there just by not being in a crash. So fair play to him. It's consistency that is the key. He's only had one minor incident where the yellow flags came out, but that was self-contained there, didn't it? I don't believe it really involved any other drivers from what we saw on the map. He was able to sort that out amongst himself. So fair play to him. Fair play to him. 8.5 minutes left to go. De Vos still with Mason. I suppose there is that point worth mentioning that James Mason is technically the manager for the ACC division of K1 Esports. So I imagine Boss is not trying to upset the boss here. But he could give it a pretty good go, I imagine. I mean, these two have been at each other's throats over the course of the last 30 or so minutes, so not to say that it's impossible, but if he keeps slouching around here, he's actually going to get unlapped by Matthias Gonalons' 333 Ferrari. You can see he's got a very good run on him out of turn 14 at Arie Luyendyk boxed, and he's covering him off, so I'm a little confused here. Why is he defending from a lapping vehicle? Has Vos lost the plot here?
I mean, with anyone having to try and do more than about 30 minutes here at the Circuit Zandvoort, you do start to go a little bit stir-crazy, as we've seen time and time again. We can see now a fight going on between Scott Milbank and Liam Cross. Let's get on board with these two as we quickly check in. Out through Hugenholtz goes Mason and De Vos at this time. Let's catch on board then with that fight at hand between Liam Cross and Scott Milbank. Now, this is in the fight for 8th position. Let's stay on board with the newbie of the pair. Making his debut here in the Sunday League, one of several, as we saw the extensive list of drivers to do so, is Liam Cross. We saw him yesterday in the Solo Multi-Class Endurance Championship, but that was too limited acclaim as that session was ultimately red flagged. So going for the around the outside swing at Tarzan. He's giving it the full Tarzan swing, but Milbank couldn't make true on that claim this time around. Still stuck in behind the Mustang. He's just using every available inch of the road for area denial on the McLaren. He's making this a very tough position to gain, knowing that we're heading into one of the narrowest sections of the track here. Milbank is going to either have to play this incredibly close to his chest here, or he's just going to have to stick around behind Cross and pray for a mistake. With 6 minutes closing in, I don't think he's got the option of the latter anymore. And we saw already that Milbank's not here to play around anymore. He was up into the top 10 with reckless abandon, and he continues to follow that on his conquest towards Cross, but he did lose quite a bit of steam, and he has spun, as a matter of fact, in the background there. I didn't want to confirm that too early on. Looking in the replay, we saw where it started. And sadly, we didn't catch the end of it there. The replay's just a little too short to show precisely what's gone on there. But we saw the start of it there where he jumped over that curve. And I think that was just spelling doom from day one there for Milbank. He will be beside himself, but he will still hold on to a top 10. So there is a silver lining to every dark cloud in today's race. Elias De Vos there, very nearly getting clipped by Matthias Golalon's Ferrari. He's still right with James Mason, so that is currently our closest fight of the day, with 6 minutes left to go. Having a look around the field to see where the rest of it could be coming from. It could be JM Quito versus Dave Bond. You can see now it's up ahead of both of the Holciano Motorsports cars. The only one still up the road from Bond at this time is he's now up to a whopping 12 positions. So he's up 2 places there, much at the behest of JM Quito and Sergio Belda, who is really not feeling it here through turn 1. Is that damage as well as a stop-go 30-second penalty? Really, it can't get much more worse for the new team on the block here. Back on board with De Vos. We've caught him right in the nick of time here because James Mason is now side by side. He can look over his left shoulder there and stare into the eyes of Elias De Vos as the two go barreling down into turn 11-12, but not anymore because they file back in single file right before the braking zone. But De Vos, with the better line, has managed to make this one stick, and that is spectacular between the pair of them. Getting a look at that on the replays as we head through turn 13 and 14. Just having a look over on our second monitor to see where that's going, but that was truly quite something. The replays are a little bit short today. That is annoying. But we did get to see the very, very waning half of that there, where Mason ran wide at turn 12 and De Vos picked up all of the benefit. Down into turn 1, Mason runs wide. You can see him picking up a bit of gravel there. He's going to run it the long way around and just holds on to it there. But that could be the end of his fight there for 6th position. Very well done then by Elias De Vos. He played his chances accordingly and did wait and wait and wait. And it's a reward then to be that patient here in Zandvoort, as we've seen time and time again what happens when you aren't. Sergio Belda is not going to be having a particularly fun end to this race today. 4 minutes left to go, and he's still got a stop-go 30-second penalty. His teammate JM Quito currently now down a position from Dave Bond after being overtaken for 12th position. And then Ivan Sanchez up into the top 10. So, again, as with all stories today, a silver lining to every dark cloud. Yes, it may not have been the greatest foray into the team's championship for Holcianos Motorsport, but they have made already some progress, considering the expectations were not really set at all for a lot of the newcomers, with so many making their way in for round 3 of the championship. It's a pleasant surprise nonetheless to see when a team is doing well. And we saw De Vos there swapping positions with Mason, and there was a considerable lump of dust kicked up. So one does wonder what was the decision making there. Was actually some kind of problem on the exit of turn 9 and 10 as we were taking a look around the field, but this is now reinvigorated back in a standard formation. Is this perhaps a little bit of interference? Now, it's not illegal. It's not illegal to have these team orders. Ferrari got away with it for years, but what are the plans here? What are they drawing up really at K1 Esports? Is it a case where Mason is starting to order drivers around? I don't think so. I feel like there was a natural error in there. There was a lot of dust coming from that Ferrari. And let's not jump to conclusions too early, but always do suggest. Right now, though, things have simmered down bar a few minor skirmishes here at the very, very final minutes of today's race. And as it stands, really, Melvin Milliston's going to take home a brutal victory. And it's going to be his 4th career win in the Sunday League. It's going to be his 2nd win in a row this season after having won last round in Alton Park. He is on top form. So checking back in with the K1 Esports team, who now seem to be the talk of the final 10 minutes. Good lord, that was nearly a monstrous bit of contact between Gonalons and Mason heading down into turn 8. That could have ended in disaster there. And thank goodness it didn't. Actually, what it has given rise to is a bit of a fight behind them between Sergio Belda and Matthias Gonalons. The two Ferraris now sparring for 14th position. So 2 battles intercede one another. That is an interesting one here at the very, very final couple of laps of today's race. We are remiss to really have much to comment about, and I do apologize for that if it's getting a little bit drier, but a lot of the drivers now are just settling into that rhythm, and it's all the way to the line now. I think the bulk of our action, sadly, we ended up missing because it was just happening all over the shop. Now, I'll take personal accountability that I should have been more on the ball with that, but there's definitely a lot of factors at play today. And I do apologise if most of these incidents maybe aren't up to your likings as to whether or not they were seen or not, but really, it's just how can you predict half of these going on here? I'm only one set of eyes. Quickly checking in, though. DeVos and Mason down in the turn 1. We did see a little wobble from Belda as we cut across there, and same for Quito. They seem to be holding strong here. Sanchez being lapped by Vermac from 9th position. Now, I think that goes to show at length there the difference between the top and bottom 2 of the top 10 positions. So having a gander then on the track to go and catch a glimpse at the final couple of moments of today's race. See, it has been a remarkably mixed bag on all fronts here. Right now, the man leading the charge, Melvin Milliston, is sure to take home his 4th career victory and 2nd this season in a row in a moment's time. But having a look around where the last of our fights are, Mason and DeVos, bear in mind they've one more lap around the track before this is all over for them. Still, there is ample competition for 6th place, but is either of them going to be looking to make any kind of risky moves this late on? I don't think so. Let's get on board with Melvin Milliston. We quickly see here has gone unopposed throughout this race. This is a monstrously dominant performance, unlike anything I believe we've ever seen here in the NLRL Sunday League. Now, quickly taking a gander there, we'll check the intervals between DeVos and Mason, but getting on board then with the race leader. He has led every single lap of this. Actually, has he led every single lap of this race? Is this a Grand Slam for Melvin Milliston? I believe so, having a gander at it. But without further ado, he heads down towards the line. The checkered flag flies, and a 2nd race win in a row for Melvin Milliston. Bravo, because that is one of the greatest racing performances I have ever seen. Having a look here, Tyler Vermac looks to take home 2nd. Byron Forrest for 3rd place in one of his best finishes in the series. And it is a Malwa 2, 3, 4, and 5. They'll be taking home 2nd and 3rd points hauls in the team's championship. Let's see, where does the penny drop here in the fight between DeVos and Mason, as it was one of our closest contended fights in the 2nd half of today's race. We see that Tyler Vermac takes home 2nd place. Byron Forrest looks to take home 3rd as he rounds Ari Luyendijk. Turn 14 down to the line. He takes home 3rd. LeBay will take home another top 5 appearance here for 4th position. Quain will be taking home the top 5. But where does it end here in the saga of Elias DeVos versus James Mason? Elias DeVos started this race at the back of the field. Mason started towards the front and have met in the middle. Meet me halfway, he says, on his way to the checkered flag. Whose direction does this swing in then? Does it go to Mason? Does it go to DeVos? Supposedly we cut away as well, right as Gonalons very nearly got himself into a very similar situation as we saw from Stratton earlier. But finally, an ending note to this saga here, getting to the checkered flag. James Mason 6th, Elias DeVos in 7th. We'll get a full recount of the standings in a moment's time. We see down towards the line James Quito and Sergio Belda. And then here in 15th, after all things said and done, goes Matthias Gonalons. What a performance we have seen today. at the very, very end of this race. Melvin Milliston wins in Zandvoort. Tyler Vermack second, Byron Forrest third, Christian LeBay fourth, Kevin Crane in the top 5, James Mason sixth, Elias DeVos 7th, Liam Cross on debut to the Sunday League in 8th position, Ivan Sanchez on debut in 9th, and Scott Milbank in the top 10. D-Man Ivanov in 11th, and Dave Bond in 12th. JM Keto in 13th on debut, Sergio Belda in 14th on debut, and Matthias Golalons 15th on debut. That was incredible stuff then, right at the very end of today's race. And that's all from us here on TRTN. And we do apologise for the slightly more ramshackled production value of today. And I think that's more come out of the circumstances of right now. I won't go too much into it. Personally, from my standing point, there's just a lot that has gone on today. And if that has affected my performance, please do let me know. But that's all from us here on TRTM. And thank goodness, you know, for this weekend, we did have one race go to the red flag, and it's not great, and G-Portal's not been doing us many favours after the technical malfunctions of last weekend. So to get through one whole Sunday League race, I think that's a treat in anyone's books. And that's the end of our performance today here on TRTN, and that's the end of the line for round 3 of this championship. For those of you tuning in next Sunday, you'll be catching us for round 4 of the championship, and like I said, on the new and revised Season 3 calendar, as everything has been shoved around a little bit. Silverstone now the final round of the championship, as you'll know, replacing Indianapolis, which now bumps up to round 9, and Spielberg up to round 8, and so on and so forth. We'll be in the Benelux region for one more week here before we head over to the Iberian Peninsula down in Valencia, Spain for the midway mark of the championship. But for round 4 next Sunday, we're at the Circuit de Spa-Francorchamps for an endurance race, so do thoroughly look forward to that. Until then, though, that's the end of the line here for us here on TRTN. Have a wonderful rest of your evening. Take care and good night.